Hello fellow walkers. Today we start with a still view here, very serene, and then we move on with our walk. So get ready, get your walking shoes on, and here's another Aristotelian lesson from the contemplative forest. Peripatetics, the students of Aristotle, and what that means is the walking philosophy. Movement allows information to be assimilated much better than sitting still. So today, on our walk, the lesson from the forest is going to be the myth of finding self. You hear people talking about, oh, I got to find myself. I got to take some time off from this relationship to find myself. I got to find out what I'm all about. And what I have to say about that is, unless you're profoundly brain damaged, you don't have to look anywhere to find yourself because you're there already. And what I want to do is I want to clarify what causes these insane ways of introspection, supported by books that have nothing to do with science and supported by populist kind of views that really know very little about neuropsychology and the other disciplines that really look at what self is. Well, self is not one thing. You're not a psychologist or a father or a mother or a brother. You are a conglomerate of things based on context. And knowing that, you begin to see that if you look for that reductionist self, it's not going to happen. Because self is a cluster, self is an ecology that includes other people, that includes contexts. And when you begin to think about finding yourself, what happens is you lose agency. You lose the selfhood when you try to look for what's already there. So Penfield in the 1920s, 30s was a neurosurgeon who was actually trying to map the functions of the brain, and he did open cranial investigations by actually people were not anesthetized because the brain doesn't have any pain receptors, and he was probing while the person was awake with electrodes, very mild electrical charge, touching different parts of the brain and see what happens. So when he touched a certain part called the motor strip that has to do with actual movement, he would touch a particular part and the patient's arm would move, and he would ask what happened, and the patient, which was awake, would say it moved, the arm moved, and it went that way for everything that he did. Then he would say to the patient, now move your arm the same way that the arm moved a few minutes ago, and the patient would move the arm, and he would ask, what happened? And the patient said, I moved my arm, not the arm moved. So there was an I there. But what Penfield and no one else has been able to find, because it's not there, is that there's no I in the brain. He couldn't identify the I. The I is that agency, that awareness that you're doing something, that you're moving something within you, intellectually and every other way. So the I is not to be identified in one place. The I is who you are at the moment, and to go somewhere to look for who you are already is to try to do some kind of exercise that is counterproductive to what you're looking for. So now, having said all of that, what do we do then when you have to find yourself? When you say that you have to find yourself, it means that you haven't looked into yourself very much to really see what's going on. So it's a mindlessness that guides you to say, I got to find myself. The moment that you're mindful, which is that you become aware of what's happening and you look for novelty within you. Novelty is immediate mindfulness. You don't have to go to a cave, you don't have to do major meditation. The moment that you find novelty, something new within you, or something that you have not been aware of, that is mindfulness. The moment that you're aware of a mistake, that is mindfulness. So if you're looking for self in the wrong places, because there's no place, then you simply stop and feel what's going on within you. Feel what's going on in your body. Feel how you're breathing. Feel the thoughts that come to you. The sensations that you have. And that is self at that moment. Trying to go beyond that is to give it labels beyond what it is. It's like you take a person and you put labels and you put layers over them, and then the layer becomes the person without looking at the person being the essence. So now we stop thinking reductionistically and we start thinking in terms of ecology. I am who I am in a context with other co-authors in that context, and I'm also my cultural history, which is another way of looking at self. Your cultural history determines your predispositions to act in a particular way. Doesn't mean that's you. It's just a predisposition that moves you in a way that your culture taught you of how you should be. So I hope by now you realize that looking for self is futile. Looking inward is productive. Also in relationships, you say, I'm going to take some time off to see what I need in this relationship. Well, how can you look for what you need in a relationship in a vacuum? What you need in a relationship is to stay in and see what it is that you need and discuss it and find out what is required. So I hope all of this gives you an idea of how futile it is to look for something that doesn't have a way to point out. Like, remember the Penfield experiment. The eye could not be found in the brain, although there was a
time
movement.
16 minutes 20 seconds. Distance 1 mile. Pace 16 minutes 19 seconds per mile. Split pace 16 minutes 20 seconds per mile.
Well, there we go. Interrupted by the map of walk, but now you see what I'm doing, how far I've gone and how fast I've gone. Now, getting back to what I was saying. Since there's no place for self, because self is ineffable, can't be described in one particular place, but it is, in essence, it's an experience, it's a moment in time, and that's who you are. And there's nobody like you in the 7 billion people in the world. So celebrate your uniqueness. Without even knowing where it is that self comes from, self can be sensed and can be celebrated. Okay, so now self is a walker, an imperfect walker. That's what self is. I'm not going to worry about anything else right now because that's my context. So enjoy and let me know what you think about this, and see if it helps you in finding self within you rather than needing to go anywhere to find him or her. All right, enjoy. And you've already lost a few calories just by going this walk with me. Talk to you soon. Your imperfect teacher, signing out.